Now the Three Martini Lunch with Greg Corombos and Jim Garrity.
And welcome, everyone, to the Monday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Andrew Johnson of National Review is in for Jim Garrity today. I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Good, bad, and crazy martinis for conservatives today as usual. And Andrew, Jim and I certainly talked about this a number of times last week, and that's the whole flap over Brian Williams finally admitting that he has been not telling the story accurately. He was not shot down in Iraq, as it turned out. His chopper was not hit by RPG. So he apologized on air for that after he was exposed in Stars and Stripes by members of the unit that he was dealing with at that time back in 2003. The internet exploded in Brian Williams memes and pictures of him at Gettysburg and on the moon and storming the beaches of Normandy and all this sort of stuff. So it's been pretty relentless. And on Saturday, Brian Williams issued a statement that read in part, "In the midst of a career spent covering and consuming news, it has become painfully apparent to me that I am presently too much a part of the news due to my actions. As managing editor of NBC Nightly News, I have decided to take myself off of my daily broadcast for the next several days." Unquote. Lester Holt will fill in, which is no big surprise. So I guess when we initially saw this story and it looked like there was going to be no repercussions whatsoever, and NBC brass was just going to say, no big deal, Brian Williams stays on, at least there's this acknowledgement. Whether or not he keeps his job, we'll find out, but at least there's a recognition finally that there's something wrong when your anchor tells a lie over and over.
NBC was trying to do throughout all this was kind of betting on Brian Williams' popularity. He's kind of become this sort of, I don't really know why. I mean, I guess he is charming, but sort of this like pop culture celebrity. He slow jams the news. He's a great late show guest. So I think they're kind of just betting that they could kind of ride that out, but evidently not. I was reading that even on Friday, closing his evening broadcast, he said, I don't know what his Walter Cronkite kind of closing line is, but he said something like, "I'll see you guys on Monday." And so the fact that the next day he decided to, take a leave of absence for a while sort of shows that I guess this is suddenly dawning on them that, hey, this is kind of a big deal, guys. Your trusting voice that everyone brings into their homes every evening. Well, I don't know how many people do, but bring into their homes every evening has a credibility problem, and he's being talked about and or mocked relentlessly on the web, and it's something you need to address.
I would think so. Do you have a favorite meme that you saw out there? Which historical event?
Well, I did kind of like him on the moon. I thought that was a fun one. What was yours? Did you have one you were a fan of?
I really liked Gettysburg. I mean, I've seen it go all the way back to the Last Supper, so there's like not even pretending to try and keep it in his actual lifetime. So it's been pretty creative out there.
Actually, one thing I haven't seen though is the Sistine Chapel one of him being God or Adam. Come on, meme makers, get on that one.
Conan O'Brien had a nice tweet. Conan O'Brien has no great love for NBC. And so he said, this is really amazing that this happened to Brian Williams. When he and I went and killed Osama bin Laden together, I really found him to be a really truthful guy.
Yeah, I saw that and was thinking like, oh man, there's Conan's, NBC jab. And the other thing, though, Brian Williams says, I don't like being a part of the news. I've been too much part of the story. Is, when he is on all these pop culture things, whether he's appearing on 30 Rock with Tina Fey, and everyone's sort of gushing over this, or he's slow jamming the news, and all the news channels are replaying it because Brian Williams is just so charming. Like, he doesn't mind being a part of the news then, but then when it's for something bad, then that's a problem. And also, he had a Letterman appearance this week, just coincidentally, that he also backed out of last night as well.
Yeah, big surprise there.
So I guess we'll see how that unfolds.
Andrew, the last exit question on this one. The conventional wisdom at this point seems to be that if it's determined that this is an isolated incident, he probably keeps his job. If one of these Katrina stories or something else pops up and is proven to show that he's done this before, he's toast. Is that kind of the way that most folks in the media are looking at this?
I would think so. Again, I think that's what the Katrina story or something similar to that, or if there's sort of been a pattern of behavior, I think that's what gets him. I guess people are willing to be forgiving with one incident that kind of got away from him, the Iraq story. Again, people can differ on that, but I think if it turns out there have been just other heroic exploits that he's had while covering the news that turn out to be false or a little overly exaggerated, I think then he's in trouble. And that would also be a sign for NBC. Between David Gregory, Brian Williams, people that were the face of your network just a year ago, Gregory's already gone, and who knows where Brian Williams will be moving forward.
He'll have even more time to slow jam. Possibly.
Yeah.
We'll find out. All right, on to the bad martini now. And yesterday, of course, was Sunday, which means a lot of Sunday morning chat shows, one of which is Fox News Sunday. They had their usual panel of pundits. One of the ones on the panel was Bob Woodward, of course, the famous Watergate reporter and author of many books of the presidency since Richard Nixon. And Chris Wallace started with Bob Woodward by saying it was an interesting week. We had the burning horrifically of the Jordanian pilot, and the president spent time at the National Prayer Breakfast seeming to make an immoral equivalence between the Crusades of 1,000 years ago and what ISIS is doing now. And not only did Woodward not think that was a very intelligent comparison, but he said something that probably has folks even more worried about just how unprepared this administration is to face this ISIS threat.
If you talk to people in the White House and the military, I think there's agreement, and John McCain's right, and General Flynn is right. There's no strategy. They have not sat down and said, this is where we want to go, and this is how we want to do it. And the measure of that, when you get in the weeds here, people from the White House are micromanaging the tactical situation on a daily and weekly basis. That's not their job.
The Obama White House is micromanaging this military operation. Andrew, is there anything that could give you less confidence?
That's sort of been one of the main criticisms leveled against people with military experience or foreign policy or diplomacy against this White House is that they micromanage way too much. They're always kind of looking at it from a political angle. That just makes it difficult for the people that are experts, the people that should be making these decisions, that should be looking into this more, that should be sort of addressing these issues, to really weigh in and get their thoughts heard. That's allegedly part of sort of the Chuck Hagel situation. That's a part of why he left. And I think Woodward hits on something too, is that there's no strategy. And I was actually talking about this with someone the other day, is that you'll notice whenever someone levels that against the administration or Democrats, that there's no strategy, the Congressional Democrats' response is sort of overblown, like, oh, so what, you want to have another Iraq? And they never really sort of present like, well, no, actually here is what the strategy is. This person would say it's never an explanation of what the strategy is. And so I think Woodward hits on sort of the two main criticisms that a lot of people are raising with it, even within the administration or formerly of the administration, that they're too hands-on and it's detrimental in some regards.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus, at least from some of the folks who were testifying before the Senate Armed Services Committee last week. All right, on to the Crazy Martini now, Andrew, and there are many things that have the Obama administration fired up. The thing that seems to have gotten them the most upset is John Boehner inviting Benjamin Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress later this month without telling the White House first. There's going to be payback, is one of the anonymous quotes we saw. And now the Democrats have decided, I guess, Andrew, that they're going to be washing their hair that day because Nancy Pelosi says, I think a lot of the Democrats are going to be busy. Well, since Republicans set the agenda, the speech is going to be in the House. I'm not sure there's a lot of official business there. And Joe Biden magically is going to be out of the country. So what do you make of this? And how awkward is this potentially for Netanyahu as he's right in the middle of a campaign?
I guess they'll be busy. I don't know if you saw this, that apparently Debbie Wasserman Schultz was at the Grammys last night. So, maybe there's some award show that they'll be coming back from. Or it sort of does create an awkward situation for Netanyahu and Republicans, but also for Democrats. I mean, I don't know how well it will play that X number of Democrats will boycott this. There's already been a few that say they will definitely not attend. And again, some more may join that crowd. But again, it's sort of like you said, when you ask a girl to the dance and she comes up with a lame excuse, that's sort of what they have, is that they'll be busy that day. This has been in the works for a month. My thinking is if they wanted to go, there's things they could rearrange. And, I guess I'm just showing sort of all my second guessing whenever a girl turned me down. But I was like, wait, there's no way you can be busy that night. So I mean, it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult for Netanyahu, but I don't think Democrats just get away scot-free just because they are upset that protocol wasn't followed.
Very immature on their part, certainly, and hopefully Netanyahu gives a stem winder on the Iran threat because it is one of the greatest threats we face.
Maybe they just didn't. Have you seen his campaign ad?
No.
Based long story short, it shows this couple getting ready to go out. They go, "Where's the babysitter?" Ding dong at the bell. It's Benjamin Netanyahu, and he basically literally in sitcom-esque fashion goes, did someone call for a babysitter? And it's basically under the, I guess, metaphor of, he's going to look after your kids and look out for the future, and that's where it goes with that. But it's so cheesy, but so funny and so good that I don't know, maybe Democrats just couldn't handle sort of a cheesy speech with lame wordplay and puns like that. That's why they're not showing up.
Oh, man. Andrew, always good to have you with us. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Andrew Johnson of National Review, and for Jim Garrity today, I'm Greg Corombos of Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Jim will be back on Tuesday. Join us then for the next 3 Martini Lunch.